Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to our Watchbox Reviews YouTube channel right here, right now. I'd really appreciate it, and you'll get our best delivered daily to your inbox. Moreover, if you'd like to buy this watch or simply see it with boxes, papers, accessories, and full pricing, check it out with our entire collection of pre-owned Patek Philippe on thewatchbox.com. The timepiece on my wrist is complicated and classical at the same time. A rare example of a complicated Nautilus in white gold, the timepiece is an absolute sensation and easy to wear. Beautiful, versatile, handsome, and timeless. Let's talk about how the 40mm case wears on my 16cm circumference wrist. Quite nicely, thank you for asking. It is slim in spite of the complexity. The caliber 240 micro rotor allows the Nautilus to preserve its traditional low profile, only 8.6mm thick. The timepiece is broader than a classical 40 on the wrist because of the winglet style design, but if you can wear a 40, you can wear this watch. It simply has a little bit more wrist presence than you bargained for. The Lug To Lug measurement of the watch is a compact 44.4, but if you were to measure the rigid outermost extremities, that is the incompressible portion of the strap, you'll note that these two intermediate links joining the strap to the case do flare out, and so the true measurement across the wrist, extremity to extremity on this watch is 50.4mm. That said, it's still fairly compact, and 50mm is the critical dimension for me. And I believe for anyone who has a smaller male wrist, which I define as approximately 14 centimeters to 16.5, you want a watch that's 50mm or fewer across the wrist, and this watch effectively meets that standard. The strap is flat, sheer sides. It is substantial, but it's not bolstered. It's a flat, tapered design that matches the swell of the lugs almost perfectly. It's a matte, large rectangular scale black alligator leather. The sheer edges, a light contrasting gray stitch to match the gold, and then, as you can see, calfskin on the underside, and a white gold double folding Patek Philippe clasp. Now, everything that you see here that is white gold is actually what's known in the industry as gray gold, a homogeneous material that never needs to be replated. So if it gets scratched or scuffed, there's simply more 18-karat white gold underneath. It's not like a conventional milky yellow white gold that needs to be rhodium plated. So our gray gold clasp gives you a remarkable degree of articulation, so you can put it onto a small wrist without the one big up and over fold of a single fold deployant that can pinch a smaller wrist like mine. Now, you will note that the swing arm of one side has been elongated for use as the springs of the trigger release system. The trigger release system ensuring that the watch will not accidentally pop open on your wrist. Not friction fit, it gives you an extra measure of confidence and security on the wrist. Now, let's get super close because we're done with the wrist shots and get a little bit more aperture for more light. Alright, now let's go to town on the case. Slim and yet structurally expressive. The assembly of the watch comes to the fore with the Nautilus. The finishing is outstanding. Creases and curves, polished and satin finished elements, and the clamp-like design of the winglets on both sides, vividly illustrating how the watch is actually put together. Now, it does have a hybrid rounded geometry to its semi-octagonal bezel, a little bit of the Royal Oak DNA carrying over into Gelsenta's second great effort of the 70s, the Nautilus of 1976 following his 1972 Royal Oak. But this watch is distinct in its aesthetic from any other Nautilus or Royal Oak, and it's the somewhat haphazard location of the complications on the dial that is a throwback to an earlier era, not the 1970s, more like the 1870s, when a complicated pocket watch often scattered its complications across the dial directly above the pinion, driven by that particular complicated mechanism. So the dial features a metallic sheen. It is lustrous and reactive. It's a sunburst over a linear striation that runs horizontally. The striation has always been a part of the Nautilus design, adding a little bit more visual strength and different focal planes to the dial. The indices are all applied white gold, and the hands at center are white gold to match. And then you have four separate displays. You have constant seconds in its own sunken sub-register, you have a radial date with a crescent-style moon phase, and then you have a power reserve scale from 0 to 48 that traces the remaining autonomy of the watch. It is all fully loomed, so the watch is legible in the dark, and there will be a loom shot at the end of this video. Because of the construction of the case as well as through fittings that allow you to actuate the complications, the watch has a 60-meter water resistance rating rather than the 120 meter rating across the rest of the Nautilus line. Nevertheless, the watch can be equipped with a rubber strap that allows for surface bathing. So it is a semi-aquatic watch, it's just not a diver. Now the crown assembly controls a caliber 240 micro rotor. So a couple of things going on here. Let's get as close as we can and bring this into focus. A little bit more aperture for a little bit more light. All right, now this is a micro rotor automatic with a few benefits. First, by putting the rotor in the same plane as the rest of the bridges, you allow the watch to be very thin. Moreover, by putting the rotor in the same plane as the bridges, you don't have the blockage that occurs when a central rotor automatic is set up, whereby the winding system bridge and the rotor obscure minimally half the movement. 38 to 48 hour power reserve. It features a free-sprung balance with gyromax style architecture, taking a precise regulation and holding it in the face of bumps, disruptions, and concussions on the wrist. That's what gyromax is all about. And the 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate is a little bit anachronistic, but allows the watch to achieve that potential 48 hour power reserve. The watch does feature a silicone hairspring, so you have the Patek Philippe Spiromax hairspring in silicone for robust anti-magnetism, more materials innovation under the rotor, ceramic bearings operating unlubricated for high efficiency, the rotor itself made of 22 karat gold. As you'll note, beautifully executed perlage across the base plate, so that's that overlapping engine turning, the linear striations of the Côte de Genève that align perfectly across the bridges, black polished screws, and when I turn the movement flush to the camera, you start to see, let me see if I can do this without disfiguring anything, you start to see how the edges of the bridges gleam and glisten. And perhaps that's the angle that shows it the best. You can see on the edges of the bridges, they're all mirror polished, what's known as anglage in the industry. It's a rounded beveling. Not really a bevel in the mechanical sense, more like a rounded removal of the sharpness and the shear of the edge of the bridge. It's mirrored, immaculate, and worthy of examination under a loupe. So if you buy this watch, you should also buy a loupe to appreciate it. Get one that's 10 to 20 power so you can really dig in. Now, if the watch lacks any modern features, it's probably the lack of a hacking function, so you can't stop the seconds. Nevertheless, the watch is extraordinarily accurate. A timepiece that's as refined mechanically as it is technically beautiful. You can see and you can purchase this Patek Philippe 5712 in white gold on our website. And we're back with the Patek Philippe 5712G in white gold. Gloriously green in the dark, see it in the light on our website, thewatchbox.com.